The MSP industry has a ton of providers, a ton of competitors, if you will. Vast majority who are a smaller business, less than 10 employees, less than $1 million, right? And each one of our markets, has 5, 10, 50, 100 different MSPs, working alongside in kind of that same market. And really now more than ever, it's time for all of us to kind of really join together, really work together in a few different ways to really support ourselves, our industry, but then the general population and all of the organizations, businesses, and everybody that we're in charge of protecting, right? These are very challenging times, and it's important for all of us to work together in a few different ways. Well, I just think there's a few different ways that MSPs need to really start working together now more so than ever, in kind of this COVID and cybersecurity wave time, especially given that there are so many of us out there, trying to do the hard work every single day. Even just having a good network of your peers to be able to reach out to and get some understanding or get some guidance on something that maybe they've already gone through. So there's a few different ways that all of us as MSPs should be working together, and we'll talk about that today. I'm Stephen Taylor. This is Weekly ST. For the last 10 years, I've been building a couple $1 million cybersecurity IT support company here in Chicagoland. I'm fascinated with living a wholly successful life. We talk about all this and more every single week. Please like, share, and subscribe. The first thing that's happening is cybersecurity is rife. There's a ton of bad actors out there, and a lot of bad things are happening. And unfortunately, it's our job in the industry to get everybody up to speed, to make sure that we're following all the best practices, to get all the hardware and software up to date if it isn't already, to ensure that we're rolling out different layers of cybersecurity protections, and certainly educating our clients and the market on what they need to look out for. It's a lot of work, right? And there's certainly not enough of us in the industry, not enough talent to really grind through all of this anytime soon. There's going to be a lot of work, over the next 6 to 12 months. And this is a moving target. It will constantly change. And so I just think it's important for all of us in the MSP industry to be working together in such a fashion where we're all educating the market, educating our clients, providing new additional layers of security so that our clients and these organizations are not in the headlines, ensuring that our house is locked down. We talked about, if you're an MSP and you do not have two-factor authentication enabled, drop what you're doing right this minute and ensure that that's happening. And, I believe there's an importance in knowledge sharing. A ton of is happening in cybersecurity, and it's important for us to knowledge share and knowledge transfer. What are we learning? What are we seeing out there? What are the bad guys doing so that all of us can benefit from this data and this information, and we can adapt what we're doing in real time, if you will, so that, again, our industry, our economy, our local organizations and businesses are protected. And it's important for us to share that data, whether it be Facebook groups, Reddit forums, or whatever, that helps keep us one step ahead of the bad guys, so to speak, and helps us then put in one more hurdle or one more layer or one more best practice that's going to prevent these guys from doing bad to, again, our customers and the organizations and businesses, in our markets. I think the other big factor, again, there's a lot of MSPs who are, they're new, right? They've just gone into startup mode. It's an exciting industry, and there's a lot in the startups. There's a lot of guys who have been doing it for some time, but might be kind of at that $1 million mark, might have, only 5 or 10 employees. And that's a very tough business to manage, right? We were there at one point, and you just don't have enough resources. And so I think, again, this is another time for us to look, to our peers and maybe call it our competitors. And it might be time for more and more of us to merge together, to acquire others, but really to start joining forces, right? To spend the money on the tools, to spend the money on the admin staff, to spend the money on the overhead of a building and this, that, and the other thing gets really expensive. And when you look at, two equals in the market, two MSPs that might be $1 million or $2 million, them joining forces gives us great efficiency, right? We can lower the overhead of 2 buildings because we're close enough in geographic reach, and most of the work that we do is remote anyway. We can lower the admin overhead, right? We don't need people doing billing and the paperwork and those kinds of things if we have, two houses coming together. And then we're banding 5 and 10 employees into, now a 20-person organization. We've got plenty of technicians to support the workload and learn the better efficiencies on both sides, right? And consolidating the tool set. Every one of these vendors, there are some great vendors in this industry, but every single one of them is looking to milk another $400 or $500 a month out of each one of us. But if the 2 of us band together, then it might only cost us $600 instead of $1,000, for each of us, right? And so there's a lot of consolidation in the tools and the vendors and all of the different things that we need to deploy to our clients. And we get purchasing power, right? Also, these vendors have tiered pricing, right? And so when you only have 250 endpoints, your price is 3 times as much as it would be if you had 1,000 endpoints. And I just think, as all of us as MSP owners know, we're wearing so many different hats, and I think it's death of 1,000 paper cuts with all of these different vendors who are doing good work for us. But the tiered pricing and the minimum spend and all that kind of stuff really starts to bleed away at our expenses, and is tough. And our owners, us as owners wearing so many different hats, but when you bring 2 shops together or 3 shops together, you work together, then each of those owners can go and do the thing that they're most passionate about, right? Maybe it is the projects and the onboarding, right, for the more techies. Maybe it's sales and marketing, right? They're really interested in that, but they only spend 30 or 50% of their time doing that because they still get pulled into tech work because there just isn't enough team, and enough capacity to support the customers. Or maybe it's something altogether different. They might be a great, CFO and a financial person, or better at marketing or account management, VCIO role, whatever it might be. And so, I think it's a great time for us to look at, some of the competitors in our market. And if there's great symmetry and if there's great, gel there and the customers look the same and the way that they're doing things is similar or a little bit different, but can be grouped together. They can, join up the wagon train, if you will, and we're all going to see great efficiencies, and it's going to do good for us as a business then, as well as for our customers and as well as for our teams, because we're not always trying to find a little bit more juice to squeeze out of it, because it can be very tight and expensive right now at that smaller level. So I think it's super important to, keep your eyes open and be communicating with those in your market, your competitors, if you will. I think there's great opportunities in us joining and working more together. So I think the question we all need to be asking ourselves is, who are 3 to 5 of my peers, my competitors, other colleagues in the industry that I'm touching base with, communicating, whether it's stuff that we're learning in the industry from a cybersecurity perspective, or even going deeper and finding out, is there opportunity in 2 or 3 or 4 of us banding together and really having some more efficiencies in our business to be able to better support our customers and really continue driving business forward, instead of kind of the quagmire of, pushing the rope uphill, so to speak, in the challenges every single day that all of us face in this industry.